Hey everyone, I'm Utsav Banka, and in this video we're going to do the unboxing and my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S20. Samsung launched the S20 along with the S20 Plus and the S20 Ultra in February 2020. And I think that most of the users will be looking at the S20 in particular, given that it's got the top of the line hardware and software, and it's a smaller form factor along with the lower price. I know that the S20 Ultra is the humongous beast with its top of the line camera and its amazing battery and the larger screen. But at the end of the day, given the trade-off between the two phones, I think that the S20 Ultra is mainly an enthusiast phone. So here I have the S20 that's sold here in India. It's the 128GB UFS 3.0 storage and the 8GB RAM variant. It retails for about 70,500 in India, but you may be able to get it cheaper given that Samsung keeps running some offers. So let's take a quick look at the unboxing and then we'll move on to my full review. So we get the SIM ejector tool and some standard paperwork along with the phone, and Samsung's also included a clear case along with the Samsung S20, and that's a good addition to have. The quality could have been a little better, it's a little flimsy, but it's good to have some protection right outside the box. In addition, we also have the super fast charging power brick. It's a 25 watt fast charging power brick, and it comes with the Type-C connector now instead of the Type-A. So that's a good move from Samsung, given that Type-C is just generally better in terms of charging optimizations compared to the Type-A. We have the standard wired AKG earbuds bundled with the phone. They're the in-ear kind, just as usual. And since the phone no longer has a headphone jack, it comes with a Type-C connector now. And lastly, we have the charging cable bundled with the phone. It's given that the power brick is Type-C, it's a Type-C connector on both ends. And we have some additional earbuds that come along for the earphones itself. Now let's move on to the phone. So here we have the Samsung Galaxy S20 itself. I've got the cloud blue variant here. It's super reflective and it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's a subtle light blue tinge. And the glass back will attract a lot of fingerprints very easily. I mean, if you can see that, but the clear case that they've provided will solve that issue. Coming to the build of the phone, so it's standard Samsung flagship with a glass front and back and a metal frame. On the back we have the camera module and the Samsung logo, otherwise it's pretty clean. On the left side we've got nothing, it's a clean look. Samsung's gotten rid of the Bixby button since I'm sure not a lot of you guys were anyway using it. At the top you have the SIM card tray and a microphone. So the SIM card tray is a hybrid SIM card slot where you can either use it with two SIM cards or use it with a SIM card and expand your storage up to 1 TB using a micro SD card. On the right side we've got the volume rocker and the power key, and they're both very clicky and give you a very good response. At the bottom you've got the speaker grill, a microphone and the Type-C connector. So Samsung has been one of the last companies to drop the 3.5mm headphone jack from their phones. I personally don't mind because I moved to wireless options a while ago, but to help you with the transition, they do provide you with the Type-C AKG earphones right inside the box. The phone comes with an IP68 water and dust resistant certification, which means that it can withstand for up to 30 minutes in 1.5 meter deep water. Now I wouldn't recommend to test it out, but it's a good safety feature to have. Another thing I noticed was that Samsung also puts in a screen protector on the phone inside the box, so that's a good additional protection feature to have right outside the box. And coming to the feel of the phone in your hand, the phone's very light at 163 grams, and Samsung's done an amazing job in calibrating the weight balance, and it doesn't feel too heavy in your hand. I have the iPhone XR here that weighs in at about 194 grams, and that feels considerably heavier compared to this one. The S20 is just very nice to hold and feels really good in your hand. So the S20 has the Exynos 990 chipset. It's got a 6.2-inch Quad HD Plus AMOLED display. It's got 4000 mAh of battery and a triple rear camera setup with a 12 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 64 megapixel telephoto. It's got 10 megapixel front camera and the other features are all listed on the screen. So coming to the display of the S20, it's an absolutely brilliant screen to look at. The 3200 by 1440 resolution along with the OLED technology just makes the pixels really sharp and the colors really pop. It's one of the best displays that I've seen in a smartphone as of now. It's got the entirely bezel-less design with a hole punch for the front camera. Now compared to the S10, they've moved the hole punch from the corner to the center in the S20. I prefer it in the center because sometimes some of the information used to get cropped out because of the corner hole punch, but that comes down to your own preference. The screen also supports the higher 120Hz refresh rate that allows you to experience a much fluid and much more buttery experience when you're using the phone. They've also improved the touch response rate from 120Hz to 240Hz. That again improves and gives you a snappier experience when you're using the phone. And it's surprising how amazing the phone responds to your touch based on these improvements in technology. Out of the box, it does come at 60Hz, and you'll have to manually go into the settings and change it to 120Hz. But one thing to note is that Samsung doesn't allow you to use the 120Hz at the highest Quad HD Plus resolution. So if you want to use the 120Hz higher refresh rate, you need to scale down to the full HD Plus resolution. I don't know why Samsung did this. Maybe they're doing it to save battery, but it'll be good to see that option to max out your specification in a future update. Coming to the security and the lock screen of the S20, it has an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint sensor. Now this is very different from the other in-display sensors available in other devices like the OnePlus 8 or the OnePlus 8 Pro that use an optical fingerprint sensor. Samsung claims that the ultrasonic technology is more secure than the optical technologies in other phones. I've used the fingerprint sensor and it's very snappy and very reliable. It works even when the screen is off, and it even works when I had moisture on my fingers. Samsung's also added some cool new features where you can use your fingerprint to log into your applications without having to remember your passwords, and you can even use your fingerprint along with Samsung Pay. Along with the fingerprint options, they also have a face unlock option. It works very fast. In fact, it's faster than the fingerprint reader, but it's just not as secure as Apple's Face ID that uses the 3D imaging technology. Samsung's really improved the battery when it comes to the S20. It comes with a 4000 mAh battery now. It makes sense since the higher 120Hz refresh rate does take up a lot of battery, and they had to put in a larger battery to account for that. Now it's still not that big a battery compared to if you go to see the S20 Plus or the S20 Ultra, and I do find myself having to charge it at the end of the day. It gives me approximately 5 hours or maybe a little under 5 hours when it comes to battery life and screen on time. But it has 25 watts of fast charging, so it takes about 75 to 80 minutes for me to charge it from 0 to 100%. And it even supports fast wireless charging, and it also has the really cool feature where you can charge other wireless capable devices through this phone using the reverse wireless charging feature. In terms of software, it comes with Android 10 out of the box, and given that it's the latest Android flagship, you can expect it to get the latest Android updates for at least the next 2 years. And on top of Android, Samsung layers its own user interface called the One UI 2. Now compared to Samsung's old TouchWiz user interface, the One UI 2 has come a really long way. It's very snappy, very fast, and I don't really have any complaints from the user interface as such. In fact, Samsung's also added some cool nifty features like Quick Share, which is similar to Apple's AirDrop, and it allows you to transfer files easily between capable Samsung devices. It even has a screen recording feature where you can even mark up the screen while you're recording it, and even have a section that records your face when you're talking or maybe want to explain something. The always-on display that's always been a part of Samsung's flagships is a really cool feature to have, and it lets me see all my notifications without even picking up my phone. So in terms of the user interface, it's very smooth and had no lags whatsoever. But my own personal preference comes down to the stock Android experience that you get in Pixel devices or the OnePlus devices, because it's just a much more cleaner look. Samsung adds their own versions of the App Store, of the notes, of contacts, messages, etc. And then you end up with two versions of the same app, which can sometimes be a little annoying. Coming to the performance in the chipset, the S20 comes with Samsung's in-house Exynos 990 processor here in India. Coupled with the 8GB of RAM, it performs really well, is really fast with no lags whatsoever. The RAM management is also really good. Apps are held open in the background for really long, and they even give you an option to lock the app in case you don't want it to close. I've tested it with multiple apps open in the background and it still performs really well. It does heat up sometimes, but it's not too hot and is always within range. One thing to note is that Samsung has different versions of the S20 depending on the region in which it is sold. So if you're here in India, you'll get the Exynos 990 chipset, but if you're in the United States, then you get the Snapdragon 865 chipset. So this has a few implications. Now, the Exynos 990 chipset is not a bad chipset at all. It performs really good and it's really fast with no lags. But the Snapdragon 865 in terms of performance, in terms of battery management and temperature control is just better. If you're doing day-to-day tasks and are a light phone user, then you will not see a huge difference. But if you're a heavy, intensive smartphone user and you have a lot of intensive tasks or you're into gaming a lot, then you will see a difference between the Snapdragon 865 and the Exynos 990. Another difference is that the Snapdragon 865 supports 5G, whereas the Exynos 990 here in India supports only 4G networks. Now, this is not a huge deal here in India because 5G is still in the works and is still at least a couple of years away. But it's just sad to see that Samsung has two different variants of the same smartphone depending on the region, and one of them just performs so much better. Maybe they've done it to reduce some costs, but it would be good to have the Snapdragon 865 version here in India. The triple rear camera setup on the S20 is capable of some brilliant shots. I've tested all three cameras extensively, and the 12 megapixel primary shooter can shoot amazing photos even in low lights and all other lighting conditions. I've compared this with some of the photos that I've taken from my iPhone XR, and the difference in quality just cannot be ignored. I know that the iPhone XR is a 2-year-old phone with older technologies, but it's just amazing to see how far cameras have come over time. The iPhone generally has warmer tones and more natural colors, whereas the S20 is giving you cooler tones and colors that pop out. At the end, it's just your own personal preference and what you like to see in your photo. Moving on to the 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor, it's got a 120-degree field of vision. That means that it can cover a huge amount of information in just one frame. There were some times where I noticed some distortions, but it wasn't that material. The telephoto lens is capable of 3 times optical zoom, and given that it uses a 64 megapixel shooter, the quality of the photos zoomed in is very crisp and very clear. It's also capable of a 30 times space zoom, which in my opinion is just a fancy feature that Samsung has added and not a lot of users are going to use it. As you can see, the photos are not at all crisp and lose out on all their quality when you zoom into it so much. Moving on to the front camera, the 10 megapixel front camera has taken some really good shots. They even have a wider mode to cover more people in the frame, although the difference in the two frames was not very material. In terms of video, the rear cameras have optical image stabilization, so your videos are not at all shaky and very smooth. Both the front and the rear cameras are capable of taking 4K video at 60 frames per second. In fact, the rear camera is also capable of taking 8K videos, but in my opinion, that's again a feature that Samsung's just added, but no one is going to use as such because not a lot of 8K players are there in the market here in India as of now, and I saw that about a 5-minute video takes 3 gigabytes of storage in 8K. Samsung's also added some good features like the single take mode, where it captures a section of video and chooses the best clippings and photos for you. They've even added some features where they'll tell you what the best angle or the best shot is, but in my experience it was more hit and miss. All in all, the S20 is a really good device and it ticks the right checkboxes and performs really well when compared to its competitors. If you're in the market for an Android flagship, then this is one phone that you need to look out for. That's it for my video. If you liked it, please share and subscribe to my channel. Catch you guys in the next one.